Welcome to the Strong Friend Podcast. We're here, you don't gotta be. I'm your host, Myko Glaze. So sit back, relax, and let's talk. What's up, everybody? It's Myko Glaze, and welcome to episode 5 of Strong Friend Podcast. Today's episode, I'm going to call Forgiveness Is For You. This is an interesting concept, right? Forgiveness is for you. All right. So I've been having a lot of discussions with people in my life about forgiveness and what that looks like for them and things like that. So I figured I would take this episode to kind of unpack my own concept of forgiveness or concepts of forgiveness and the things that help me factor in forgiveness and how I weigh that and what it means to me. And maybe you'll be able to relate and what it means to you. Okay, so y'all know I love a good definition, right? So I looked up the definition of forgiveness and it says forgiveness is a conscious, intentional decision to let go of negative feelings like resentment and anger, even when someone has wronged you. Now, even when someone has wronged you. Usually, when we're talking about forgiveness, it's because someone has wronged you. I'm big on forgiveness of self because I think that's important. As human beings, I think when we exercise certain things, we have to start with ourselves. And forgiveness is one of those things that I preach for self. So, the first question that I have is, what does forgiveness look like for you or to you or with you? Like, what do you define as forgiving? What do you define? How do you, I guess, how do you mark that you've forgiven? Um, what helps you make that decision? So for me, forgiveness looks like when it happens, I am willing to work through how it made me feel, how it affected me, and probably able to decide that I can live still knowing that that happened. And I can live with you in my life, in my space, knowing that whatever it was happened and it won't cause a foul to our relationship. Sometimes it seems like I don't necessarily forgive people, but I forgive people sometimes and never announce it. I reserve the right to forgive you and not have to tell you. I understand that forgiveness is for me from the standpoint of it's not going to do anything for you entirely, especially if you're not sorry. So you got to forgive for yourself so that you can continue to live effectively and productively with whatever you are needing to forgive about a person or from a person towards a person. You could still live effectively with that having to happen. And yeah, so that is to me what total and entire forgiveness would look like and what I shape it as. Just the ability to know that it happened and I can live with the result of it and still keep you in my life or still keep you at a certain regard. That's not easy. By no means is it easy. And it's a practice every day, especially as, you know, we make it through therapy and coaching and things come up for ourselves. We're finding out that there are things that we should have been forgiven a long time ago, for ourselves and with ourselves. And yeah, that's what forgiveness entirely kind of looks like for me. I think that it could be different for a lot of people because some people are wounded in ways that make it hard for them to forgive or hard for them to see themselves forgiving something. You know, there are life instances where you may never ever forgive, and that's okay. You just have to figure out how you're going to live with it and live past it. Give yourself grace. We will always talk about grace and forgiveness when it comes to yourself. You know, that should be a given. I know that in Christian religion, repentance is important for people. And, you know, repentance is asking for forgiveness. And so why not ask if God forgave you, you know, why is it hard for you to forgive yourself? That type of deal. So yeah, that's what forgiveness looks like for me. And I challenge you to really think about what forgiveness looks like for you. What shapes that for you? What factors in? What is the criteria for someone or something to be forgiven in your eyes? And when you factor in you have a right to feel how you feel about whatever it is that happened, whatever it is they did to you. But you also have to factor in that at some point in this world, you're going to need forgiveness from someone. So when you think about the way you display it, think about the fact that you would need that one day. And then how would you want to be forgiven and those things. So, yeah. What does forgiveness look like for you? Or to you? So, my second question here. Give me a second. Let me look at my paper. Is there a limit on what you'll forgive, or how much will you forgive, and why? So, let's see. Because this is a great conversation about boundaries. I will forgive someone and completely let water be under the bridge if I decide to forgive you. I'll forgive you once for the same thing because I believe at some point you're doing this. If it keeps happening, you're doing whatever you're doing knowing you're getting the result that you're given, and then I have to question your intentions at that point. There is a limit to what I'm willing to forgive. I won't itemize my list because that's kind of corny, but I'll say like I have there's a set of things that I just can't come back from. And I probably will write you off completely as a human being and just never deal with you again, especially if I'm at a juncture where it's hard for me to forgive whatever it is that you've done or forgive you for doing it. You know, I won't deal with you. I won't engage with you. I won't interact with you. And I will make sure that our spaces aren't shared spaces. And I'm intentional about that because, again, I'm different enough to put myself in a different room if I'm not comfortable. And I don't take space with people who have reached their limits on how much harm they can do to me. Because, in all honesty, the way we should be living is a life where we don't require a mass amount of forgiveness. But, some people, I like to give people a little bit of credit to say that they've thought some things through. But some people just honestly, and I'm learning this in my years as I get older, some people are just honestly, I don't want to say absent-minded because I think that that's that's a cop out. But some people are just honestly oblivious to the harm that they can do, and they are kind of like they don't recognize it as harm because they're so used to being able to behave the way that they're used to being able to behave. And a lot of times, we're new to people. And so the things that people have allowed them for their entire life to get away with, they think that they can do those things with us, because they've positioned themselves in life where they've been able to do that and nobody's ever addressed it. As for me, in my house, I'm going to address it. And, where we go from there determines is determined by your level of accountability. How much I forget. Well, whenever I say I forgive somebody, it needs to be either entirely or I'll tell you the things I forgive about the incident, and what I forgive about you. And we work from there because, sometimes people they do fuck shit and there's no real getting over everything, but I will call out what I'm willing to live with about a person if we get to have the adult discussion about it that we should be having at all times. So yes, there is a limit to how much I'm willing to forgive. Yes, there is a limit to what I'm willing to forgive. There are a list of things that I don't think I'm going to be able to get over. One of them at the top of my list is being disrespectful to me with eye contact involved. I think that that is crazy. I think that when you look someone in your eyes and you go to disrespect them or disregard them, you never gave a damn about how they were going to feel about what you were about to do. And I can't handle somebody that will be disrespectful in my face. That is very hard for me to forgive. Harming my parents probably goes on that list too. And I mean my step parents as well, because those are people who have poured into me and given me the tools, rather they were physically handed to me or instilled in me, um, or just kind of things that I didn't see that I chose to live by. They've given me the tools to be good to you. So how dare you disrespect them? That's that's really something huge for me. Um, so yeah, like I said, I won't go down my itemized list of things that I am not willing to budge on when it comes to forgiving, but there is a list and there is a limit. So I'm not saying tread lightly because walking on eggshells and thin ice all the time in your life isn't healthy, and making people do that. I've already had a period in my life where I had people timid around me because they didn't know if Katie was going to go kaboom. But there's a limit. There is a limit. And it's a healthy limit. And strong friend, I implore you to create healthy limits with what you're willing to forgive, because nobody can walk all over you if you're standing straight and you're standing tall and you're standing on business. Don't let anybody walk over you, but definitely always be willing to forgive within your limits. Okay, the third question that I have, it's not a question. It's a piece of good advice I want to talk about with you. And I say this to my clients and my friends all the time. You don't have to forgive them, but you certainly have to forgive that. Let that resonate with you. You don't have to forgive them, but you need to forgive that. Okay. What does that mean from my perspective when I say it? A lot of times, some of us have been touched inappropriately, or we've been abused. We've been, whatever the thing is that affected you the worst in your life. Um, you don't necessarily have to forgive the person who did it, but the forgiveness in that is for you is for you to forgive that thing that happened, because that is what sets you free. You don't have a heaven or hell to put anybody in. But there is a somewhere between heaven and hell that you would have to live holding on to that. And it's best that you learn how to forgive that. It takes work to forgive things in instances. But if you're going to do any work when it comes to it being hard to forgive the person that did it, you definitely want to work on that thing that happened to you and how you feel about it and how you feel towards it and how you allow it to shape your everyday life and in your opinions of people that you don't know, or things that haven't happened yet. Um, Once you get to a point where you have forgiven certain instances or a specific instance, it makes it a lot easier to exist in a world where those things are happening around you and you don't take them so personally, especially from a person who never knew that happened to you. Sometimes, because we haven't forgiven things that have happened to us, we treat people around us like they are the assailant or they are the culprit, when they didn't have a clue that your reaction was going to be your reaction. That's part of your shadow work, figuring out how to forgive the things that have happened to you, and being okay with apologies that you'll never get from people, and giving yourself proper apology and forgiveness and grace that you deserve, being a victim of that. And then moving out of that victimhood into survivor status, not survival mode, survivor status. Because once you graduate from like a victim to a survivor, then you're being a part of the change. You're being a part of, you're breaking the chain, you're breaking the curse. It can no longer live with you. If you are a victim of SA, you won't be so afraid to let your children live and not keep them bound. If you have a, if you grew up like me, I had to do a lot of forgiving of like poverty. Because growing up in poverty, there were a lot of things that I had to do to survive in real life. I'm a workaholic, and I kind of attribute that to having to work early out of survival mode. I used to collect cans so we could we could eat food some days, and throw papers in the morning so that we could eat, and things like that. And I grew up with a very, very poor perception of success and poverty. So I had to kind of forgive some things about my life to set myself free, so that I'm not bound to a need where it's emergency for me to have money and these things and provision that I don't even need to survive, but I just don't want to look piss poor in the world. And then that was always my fear, to have my well-being snatched away from me in some way. I had to do a lot of forgiving of that. I had to forgive religion because religion told me that everything about me in a lot of ways was wrong. And so I had to work through some forgiveness with that. I have people in this world that I deal with working on forgiving or have had to forgive that probably don't even know that I have a thing, that there is an issue. But for me, it caused an issue, whatever it was, whatever it is, whoever you are, it caused an issue and it gave me something that I needed to forgive about that happening because it left something with me. And once I started to forgive those things and those mindsets and those notions, I stopped being afraid to live. When it came to people, I stopped being afraid to allow people in because I forgave things about people who took advantage of their spacing in my life. Um, that's what I mean when I say forgiveness is for you. Yeah, they did it. Yeah, it happened. Yeah, you're left with it. But what are you going to do with it? Do you plan it and let it root and fester and be anger and be hate? Or do you set it free and or do you send it where it needs to go exactly, so that it can die and it can no longer have a place to live or reside within you or in this earth? You won't be continuing the cycle of that hurt that was given to you. And like, forgiveness is for you. You have to make that decision. It is a decision. It is a choice. It is a part of your autonomy. You don't have to, but it would be very, very healthy for you if you figured out what it is that you need to forgive, what forgiveness of that thing looks like to you and for you. How much of it do you forgive? What's your limit? Um, and just begin to start to forgive. But when it comes to forgiveness, forgiveness is for you. And the most important forgiveness in the world is the forgiveness that you're willing to offer yourself, because you can't give us in this world anything without taking care of you. And we don't want it. We don't want your pieces. We don't want your partials. Do it entirely. Do it entirely. And I keep saying validation starts at home. So it starts with you. If you live alone like I do, then you're responsible for starting to validate yourself. But yeah, that is my take and my thoughts on forgiveness, my whys, my hows, and my advice to you. You don't have to forgive them, but you definitely want to forgive that. Well, this has been episode 5 of Strong Friend Podcast. And I thank you all again for tuning in. And I look forward to speaking with you all later. So I know that at the end of this, it says like and subscribe and follow on all social media. So let me go ahead and say what the social media might be. So on Facebook, it's Myko Glaze, MYKO GLAZE. On Instagram, it's King Myko 83. And on TikTok, it's Universal Myko 83. I don't have Twitter because I don't know. I can't handle Twitter. It's just too much. But maybe I'll get there. Again, we're leaving space to grow. So, yeah, those are the socials. And again, I thank you for tuning in. And I will speak with you all later. Peace. Thank you for tuning in to the Strong Friend Podcast. Like, comment, subscribe, and follow us on all social media.